General Command confirms that allegations of using chemical weapons in Damascus countryside are baseless and categorically false. Our army eliminates large numbers of terrorists and destroys their dens in several areas in Damascus countryside. Iraqi border guards foil an infiltration attempt by terrorist groups from Syria into Iraq. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. A statement issued by the General Command of the Army and Armed Forces has affirmed that the allegations of the satellite channels that are involved in shedding Syrian blood about the use of chemical weapons in Damascus suburbs are absolutely baseless. The statement said such allegations are part of the dirty media war waged by certain countries against Syria, affirming the armed forces' resolve to perform their national task in confronting terrorism wherever it may be on the soil of the Syrian Arab Republic, in implementation of their duty to protect the homeland and citizens. The Army General Command's statement added that the allegations of those terrorist groups and the channels supporting them about the use by the Syrian Arab Army of chemical weapons are but a desperate attempt to cover up their defeats on the ground. They reflect the historical situation and collapse such groups and those who stand behind them are suffering from. The Army's General Command concluded its statement affirming its determination to perform its constitutional duties in ridding the homeland of the armed terrorist groups, calling on those who carry arms against the state to turn themselves in order to settle their situation before it is too late. حول استخدام الجيش العربي السوري لأسلحة كيماوية. The Ministry of Information has described as untrue reports published by Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, Sky News and other satellite channels that are involved in shedding Syrian blood about using chemical weapons in Al-Ghouta, dismissing such reports as an attempt to distract the Investigation Committee on Chemical Weapons away from its tasks. Our armed forces today destroyed terrorist hideouts in a number of villages and towns in Damascus suburbs, killing and wounding a large number of them. An official source said the army killed members of terrorist groups and destroyed their hideouts in Jobar, Arbin and Zamalka. Several terrorists were killed or wounded in Dariya and al-Mu'addamiyah. Their arms and ammunition were destroyed. A number of citizens were injured, including children, this morning as a result of a terrorist attack by mortar shells on al-Mu'addamiyah in Damascus suburbs. The terrorists targeted citizens' houses in the eastern part of the town, wounding 11 citizens, including children. Among the wounded who were moved to Al-Muasat hospital were 7 children, including a 9-month-old baby who was in a critical condition. In Jaramana and Ad-Dukhaniya in Damascus suburbs, 4 citizens were killed and others were injured as a result of terrorist attacks with mortar shells in both towns. A police command source said the terrorists targeted with mortar shells Al-Baladiyeh, Kashkul, Al-Wahda, Al-Janayin and Al-Rawda in Jaramana, killing 2 women and an 80-year-old child and injuring 13 citizens, inflicting huge material damage on houses. The source added that a mortar shell fell on Ad-Dukhaniya, killing 1 citizen and damaging a number of houses. The source said that the terrorists targeted the police hospital in Harasta with mortar shells. The losses were confined to material damage. On the other hand, security and stability were restored to Ash-Shurta and Qom al-Hajar neighborhoods in al-Sbeineh in Damascus suburbs. The army seized a field hospital and a terrorist hideout, eliminating several armed men and capturing 3 terrorists. In Daraa and its countryside, units of the Syrian Arab Army killed many terrorists and injured several others. A military source said that units of the Syrian Arab Army destroyed 2 hideouts for the terrorists in the city of Daraa, killing all terrorists inside, including the Saudi terrorist Naji Badr Surur. The source added that a Syrian Arab Army unit carried out a qualitative operation against a hideout for an armed terrorist group, so-called the Brigade of Nawa Martyrs, killing most of them. Another unit destroyed many weapons and ammunition and a gathering for the terrorists, killing many of them in the town of Al-Ahrak. Meanwhile, a unit of the valiant Syrian Arab Army foiled an attempt by the terrorists to detonate 6 explosive devices in the town of Kafr Nasij. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed with the General Secretary for the Saudi National Security Council, Bandar Sultan, issues related to the regional situation, especially the current situation in Syria and Egypt. The Russian Foreign Ministry announced that a telephone conversation was made between Lavrov and Bandar under the request of the Saudi official, during which they discussed bilateral relations. It is worth mentioning that a report published by the Lebanese daily As-Safir informed that Bandar achieved no results during his trip to Moscow last week. The report pointed out that Bandar tried to influence the Russian stand regarding the Syrian crisis and the Iranian nuclear file, but he failed to achieve any results despite the economic temptations offered to the Russian leadership. Iraqi troops intercepted a terrorist group which was trying to cross the Iraqi-Syrian borders, arresting dozens of them.
Iraqi border guards foiled an attempt by terrorists and smugglers from Syria to Iraq through Al-Anbar and Ninawa crossings. The Iraqi Interior Ministry said in a statement that a terrorist group tried to get closer to the Iraqi-Syrian borders when the Iraqi army confronted them. The clashes injured 1 Iraqi policeman and caused material damages. The Iraqi armed forces confiscated a workshop for building remote control aircraft equipped with reconnaissance cameras affiliated to the terrorist Al-Qaeda organization. Iraqi forces arrested a leader in the so-called Free Army and 2 other members south of Kirkuk. A security source said that the preemptive operation was carried out by Iraqi intelligence that confiscated 4 reconnaissance planes ready for use, especially in bombing Al-Qazimiyah city with nerve gas. The source added that Iraqi troops arrested 76 terrorists, including the so-called Wali of Tikrit.
Egypt's interim Prime Minister Hazem al-Biblawi stressed that Egypt could survive if the U.S. suspended its annual military aid to his country. He pointed out that in case Washington took such a move to stop U.S. weapons deliveries to Egypt, this will be a bad sign and will badly affect the military for some time. He added that Egypt went with the Russian military for support and survived, so there is no end to life as one can cope with different circumstances. In Egypt, 1 policeman and 1 soldier were wounded when gunmen attacked a police center on the highway leading to Port Said Governorate. Meanwhile, Egyptian security authorities arrested 5 leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood, accusing them of instigating violence. The Egyptian authorities also arrested Safwat Hijazi, who is affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood. He will be detained on charges of instigation and committing acts of violence. In Turkey, Erdogan's forces arrested a number of travelers in Istanbul for organizing demonstrations calling to arrest Erdogan and to put him for trial because of his crimes and violations of human rights. The Turkish TV channel Hürriyet reported that the demonstrating travelers were subjected to various kinds of repression by the forces of Erdogan. Despite this intimidation, the travelers insist on delivering their message of rejecting Erdogan's policies during their trip across Turkey, which is organized under the title of the March of Justice. The trip started on July 18 last year from Antalya into Eskişehir and Ankara and then into Taksim Square. Opposition parties are scheduled to organize similar mass demonstrations next September across Turkey. Now to latest business and market news, but after a short break. Stay tuned.